So today I will be presenting about my internship placement and experience at the Triangle chapter of the American Red Cross. So this next slide is a description of the agency. So the American Red Cross is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies. And they do this by both mobilizing the power of volunteers and also with the generosity of the donors. So what services does the American Red Cross offer? The American Red Cross offers a variety of different services ranging from disaster relief, blood donations, international services, assisting those in the military and their families, and also with training and certification classes for things such as CPR and first aid. Now, funding for this organization is mostly from donations that come from individuals, communities, smaller, large companies, and community organizations. Some people think that the American Red Cross is part of the government, but they are not government funded nor a government agency. They're more of an instrument for them in that they sometimes receive their money in order to carry out large relief efforts. So who works at the American Red Cross? The American Red Cross is made up of, it ranges from volunteers, employees, and community partners, and they all have different backgrounds and professional experiences, including some in public health. Some of these professions include nurses who assist with blood donations and health services, mental health counselors for individuals who have experienced disasters. There's caseworkers who assist Red Cross clients in recovery planning after experiencing a disaster. And there's also DAT responders that respond to home fires and provide monetary assistance to families that qualify. So this next slide talks about the structure of the American Red Cross. This organization is managed by a board of governors who have the power of directing and overseeing the management of businesses and affairs of the organization. They have the power to determine which programs are vital for certain areas and distribute funds in a national level to individual chapters depending on the need of those individual chapters. They also make sure that the American Red Cross meets the needs of the organization and that they reflect the current industry's best practices. And then the overall structure of the agency starts at a national level, then goes down to the division level, regional level, chapter level, and county level. So this next slide is a list of my responsibilities as an intern. My position here was as a disaster preparedness intern, and my roles included being a caseworker for clients of the Red Cross who have experienced home fires or other disasters. My specific duties as a caseworker was to consult and assist these clients with a recovery plan by providing them with the resources given to me by the Red Cross, handing out referrals for partner organizations that are help the Red Cross, and also providing supplemental assistance to clients that qualified. I was also part of several Red Cross disaster preparedness programs, such as Sound the Alarm and the Pillowcase Project, which are both adult and youth preparedness programs. The Sound the Alarm program is a home fire campaign, and for this I was a safety educator for home fires and would set up appointments to install free smoke alarms in high-risk communities, while the Pillowcase Project was a youth education program geared towards elementary school grades 3 to 5. And for this, I taught them preparedness skills and what to do in the case of different types of emergencies, mostly hurricanes and home fires, because these are the most common types of disaster for this chapter. So these are the major projects that I was part of as an intern. So the Sound the Alarm program was the first one, a youth educator as well, and then I also assisted with disaster services. For the Sound the Alarm program, my role was to evaluate the program's process. As mentioned earlier, I was responsible for scheduling in-home appointments. I was also responsible for recruiting volunteers to complete these in-home visits, contacting fire departments to help me identify high-risk communities. And not only did I have to plan these events, but I also had to participate in them as an educator, a smoke alarm installer, and a documenter. And I had to keep track of all the necessary paperwork and input it into the national database for the home fire campaign. Another project I was part of was the youth program educator for the Pillowcase Project and also for Pedro, which are both youth disaster preparedness programs geared towards grades kindergarten through 5th grade. For this project, I would attend summer camps and other child-centered events, such as the Yellow Ribbon Project, to teach children different coping mechanisms and how to prepare for different types of emergencies. And like I said earlier, these emergencies were usually either home fires or hurricanes because it's the most common disasters for the Triangle chapter. I also served for disaster services as a caseworker for Red Cross clients who had suffered home fires in helping them find resources for their recovery or handing out referrals to partner organizations in order to help clients get back on their feet. And then lastly, as a disaster preparedness intern, I assisted various DAT responders that would go on calls to respond to home fires, and my role for this was to fill out Red Cross paperwork with the clients and assess their case, while also following Red Cross protocol on how much monetary assistance I was allowed to distribute depending on the different qualifications of the client. So this next slide demonstrates a few of the CHESS competencies that I addressed through my roles as a disaster preparedness intern. The first one was 1.2, which is assessing existing information and data related to health. And I addressed this with my evaluation of the Sound the Alarm program, where I was responsible for analyzing all the existing data pertaining to the home fire campaign's implementation and population reach. Another competency I addressed was 2.4, which was to deliver a plan for the delivery of health education programs or promotion. And this was done for both Sound the Alarm program and the youth education programs I was a part of. And I participated in this by identifying resources involved in the implementation of the programs, developing appointments and timelines for the delivery of the components of the programs as well. And then the third competency I addressed was 3.2, to train staff members and volunteers involved in the implementation of health education programs / promotions. And I did this by recruiting available volunteers and sending them to the necessary training resources and video modules for either the Sound the Alarm program or the youth education programs that I was a part of. I also worked as a caseworker, which matched the 6.3 CHESS competency of providing advice and consultation on health education. My responsibility with this role was to provide advice and information to clients, and also to provide them with the necessary resources for them to complete their recovery plan and get back on their feet. So overall, my internship experience was very insightful. One of the most important things I learned throughout my internship was that you cannot do everything for clients. As a caseworker, I was to provide information and resources that could assist clients in their recovery plans, but not actually do it for them. An example of this was that if a client needed groceries, my job was to give the client referrals and contact information for local food pantries in their area, but it was actually the client's responsibility to contact food pantries and see what was needed of them for them to qualify. Now, the best parts of this internship involved assisting disaster clients in their recovery plans, being a youth preparedness educator because I love working with kids, and also teaching them different coping mechanisms and how to prepare in case of different types of emergencies. I also enjoyed being able to use my bilingual skills and helping other caseworkers in meeting the needs of Spanish-speaking clients. So now the downfalls of this internship is that because I did work in disaster services, a lot of the clients are under a lot of stress and very emotional. So throughout my internship, I had various clients either yell or cry at me, but it was my job to keep calm and understand that these clients have suffered tragedies. And another downfall was that I wasn't able to always help disaster clients with meeting their immediate needs in order for them to recover. And this was difficult for me because as a caseworker and knowing the difficulties the client has been through, it's hard to tell them that you can't do anything to assist them during these difficult times. And then lastly, because the Red Cross is mostly volunteer-based, recruiting volunteers was a very difficult part of my role as an intern because they weren't always available when needed. And whenever I was in charge of recruiting volunteers for events, I had to start weeks in advance so that I would have enough time to contact enough people so that I could get the correct amount of volunteers for the event. But overall, this was a very interesting internship. I had a lot of fun. I got to apply some of the skills I learned throughout my classes in Wilmington while also learning new skills. I really enjoyed that I had several different roles as a disaster preparedness intern and that it wasn't the same task every day. I'm very appreciative of this opportunity, and I will be continuing my work here as a volunteer on a need-by-need basis.